Discipline. Job chapter 5 verse 17, Proverbs chapter 19 verse 18, Hebrews chapter 12 verses 5 and 6, Psalm chapter 94 and verse 12, Proverbs chapter 10 verse 17, Proverbs chapter 12 verse 1, Hebrews chapter 12 verse 11, Proverbs chapter 29 verse 17, Ephesians chapter 6 verse 4, 1 Corinthians chapter 11 verse 32, Ecclesiastes chapter 7 verse 5, and Deuteronomy chapter 8 verses 5 and 6. And I'm not saying that these are the only ones that talk about discipline, but these are the few that I have. So and I'm going to read this stuff, because this is coming from the Bible. So it says, blessed is the man whom God corrects. It says, so do not despise the discipline of the Almighty. So God may have to discipline some of his children so they do what's correct. Proverbs, that came from Job chapter 5 verse 17, but Proverbs chapter 19 verse 18 says, chasten your son while there is hope. That's beautiful. And do not set your heart on his destruction. And that comes from a New King James Version. It says here. And this next one, Hebrews chapter 12 verses 5 and 6 says, my son, do not make light of the Lord's discipline, and do not lose heart when he rebukes you, because the Lord disciplines those he loves, and he punishes everyone he accepts as a son. So those words may be hard to swallow. Psalm chapter 94 verse 12, and this is coming from the NLT. It says, happy are those whom you discipline, Lord. Proverbs chapter 10 verse 17, this coming from ESV. It says, whoever heeds instruction is on the path to life, but he who rejects reproof leads others astray. Proverbs chapter 12 verse 1, coming from the NLT, says, to learn you must love discipline. It is stupid to hate correction. And like I say, I'm not the type of person that likes to go out and give these words and point out what somebody else needs help with, but I like to first examine myself. So when I speak of these things, I'm not trying to point fingers at anyone. That's not what I'm here for. Hebrews chapter 12 verse 11, coming from the NLT once again, says, no discipline is enjoyable while it is happening. It is painful. But afterward, there will be a quiet harvest of right living for those who are trained in this way. Proverbs chapter 29 verse 17, coming from the Message Bible, or the Message is what they call it. It says, discipline your children. You'll be glad you did. They'll turn out delightful to live with. Don't just let your child run loose, Ephesians chapter 6 verse 4, coming from the New King James Version. This reads, you fathers, do not provoke your children to wrath. You fathers, do not provoke your children to wrath, but bring them up in the training and admonition of the Lord. So you fathers, do not provoke your children to wrath, but bring them up in the training and admonition of the Lord. And like I said, that's Ephesians chapter 6 verse 4, New King James Version. And I wanna hear how that's said real quick. Admonition. So 1 Corinthians chapter 11 verse 32 says, when we are judged by the Lord, we are being disciplined so that we will not be condemned with the world. That's good stuff. Ecclesiastes chapter 7 verse 5, coming from the ESV, says, "It is better for a man to hear the rebuke of the wise than to hear the song of fools." Deuteronomy chapter 8 verses 5 through 6, coming from the NLT, says, "So you should realize that just as a parent disciplines a child," I like this one, "the Lord your God disciplines you to help you. So obey the commands of the Lord your God by walking in his ways and fearing him." As parents, that's the last one I'm reading on discipline. But as parents, I see this a lot. It goes on a lot. But as parents, we like to discipline our children. Nothing wrong with that. If they get out of line, you have to correct them. If it gets to the discipline point, then okay. But the thing is, what parents have to realize is the thing that parents need to realize is make sure that you're in the right as well. Because first of all, a child, you can sit up and tell a child all day and night, didn't I tell you not to be out there smoking them cigarettes? Or whatever it may be. But you smoke cigarettes. But just because you don't do it in front of that child and you never smell like it around the child, it doesn't mean that child doesn't see your spirit. Okay? A child is going to recognize your spirit. And anybody else will too. That's just the judgment that God has instilled. That's just the judgment that God has given to his people. You have some parents that discipline a child according to their standards, and that's not necessarily how it should be done. Some parents want to run straight to a whooping or something like that before they try to talk or reason with the child. I don't really think that's the way to do it, but the way that you raise your child up, the way that you raise your child up has a whole lot to do with how they will succeed or the choices that they will make in life. So it starts with the parents most of the time, and the Bible tells us that. There was someone in the Bible who he left his father, and he realized that that he was wrong, and what is it, the prodigal son. I never understood that story for a long time, but I actually found one day, sat down and read it. And the prodigal son, he was one of those that left his father, and guess his father was hurt because he was gone. You know what I'm saying? But he wanted his share of things, but he came back. The long lost son came back. So hey, y'all train your children up right, and hopefully they'll turn out to be something genuine, something good.